Oh, thanks. That's all Will's work.
Oh, hello, everybody. Welcome to the 8th episode of Season 2 of the Made in Dreams podcast. I'm your host, Mighty Vicious, here with Jammy James the Emperor.
Hello, everybody.
And, of course, Pixel Gorilla.
Howdy.
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 So,
howdy.
Somebody's poisoned the water hole. And
I thought I'd bring a little bit of Texas into the.
Indeed. So everybody knows. I mean, y'all are here for Pixel, not for us. So I'm just gonna say, let's go ahead and throw it all the light on Pixel. Tell us about yourself, where you came from, what you do, everything. Let us into your life.
My actual life or my dreams life?
All of it.
All of it.
Everything. We have the next 6 hours booked out, so you go.
Oh man. Well, yeah. So I guess if we want to just talk about making games, I've been making games for a long time. I used to make games way back in the Flash days when that was a thing.
Oh wow.
So yeah. And I kind of like stopped after a while and went into, when I got more professional and doing like user experience and web development and stuff like this. And that's what I do currently. But then when Dreams came along, it was like, hey, this reminds me of a lot like Flash, like the ease and like kind of the rapid development stuff. And I just jumped right in and made the stuff that you guys have played. And that has won some Impies, which is nice. But yeah.
You're gonna
have to give me some specific questions, man.
I thought you were ready to come in and gloat. Let the people know.
I'm not a big gloater.
Come on, my guy. Just one.
He's just playing modest.
Yeah,
I'm not.
Fine.
So leading up to the Impies. Okay, if we want to talk about this, leading up to the Impies, I was like so sure that I wasn't gonna win anything. I would message like Keld and Andy and be like, oh no, there's no way, like everybody else is so much better and all this stuff. And I really believed that. But I wanted to win, of course. And so I was completely, so Yovort can confirm that. I also messaged him a ton, just being like super anxious about it. And like, I mean, like everybody wants to win when you're nominated at that point, you get that bug. And regretfully, I got that bug too. I'm usually not big into awards and stuff because like we go through them a lot in my job. Like we always submit for several awards all the time. And you just get used to not caring about them so much. But this meant something on a different level because it was doing something that I had never done like in earnest before. And I wanted to see how good I was. And so there is a little bit of validation with, the awards and having people outside, it's not just Media Molecule. It's like the industry people judge your stuff is like, there's there's another level of validation to that. So like I did end up becoming more invested in it than I anticipated I would. But yeah, I was, I looked at RBD and Half Up and all those people and what they have made. And I'm just like, there's just no way this stuff's so good. Creators always self-doubt all the time. So like, that's just the thing we have. And so I was completely floored. I was just like, please, just one. I'll take one, any of them. I don't care. Just one will be good. And then, and then it happened to be all three, which was just completely a shock. So I'm grateful that that's the way it turned out. But, I think it's safe to say that that's probably never going to get another one.
well, I mean, look,
I would tend to disagree with you on that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I never set out. That was never like the goal, right? Like I never start any project with the goal of winning anything or even like people liking it or getting recognized, The goal for me has always been like the idea and then how well can I surface that idea and have other people experience that idea and like convey this notion to them through playing the game. And so like that's the thing, that's the driving motivator for me. And so if that's not there, then I'm not making anything, right? So I need to have this thing inside me that's like, oh, I really want to share this concept, or I really want to make something that is about this thing, and then put that out there and have people experience that. And so I think that's also what happens when you do stuff like that. That's a good recipe for people actually liking your stuff and, people recognizing it. And so like if you start in that place, you get all that other stuff as like a byproduct. And so I just think that's just a better way to think about making things in general.
Okay, well, I guess because if you don't want to dwell on the Impy, like I have one Impy question, and then we can move on to more specifics. Like,
Sure.
did your Impy add any inches?
What?
Okay.
And that's the icebreaker, ladies and gentlemen. Now we're ready. Now we're ready. So I guess let us start with Locke, because like this may seem like a ridiculous question, kind of like when I asked RBD Jellyfish if he was into puzzle games, while he had like a poster for puzzle games in the background of his camera. But like it's a two-parter. So are you unbelievably into puzzles, or did you use reference for your puzzles in the creation of Locke?
So in general, I would say not really. I mean, like that might seem like hard to believe. Like I play all kinds of games, or I try to. I don't play as much games now as I used to. But I would say like when I was younger, I didn't play a lot of puzzle games. I played, Nintendo stuff and everything like that, and everything you'd expect. Like, I'm a big Dark Souls fan and stuff like this. But I think when you're talking about dreams and you're talking about making a game, mainly it's one person making the game. I have other people help me, obviously, and I use a lot of Dreamverse assets. But when the sole onus of like making something good is on one person's shoulders, I tend to think like puzzle games kind of have a nice environment for being ambitious with like a design and with an idea, without also having to be equally ambitious with like the logic and the asset creation and the technology side of it, right? Like, so I can make a big game without having to make a big game, if that makes sense. And so that's why I kind of gravitate towards puzzle design, because it's a little bit more like I can investigate an idea cleaner and I can actually achieve it and finish it, right? Like if I wanted to make a platformer or a 3D platformer like Mario, like the amount of work that requires is so much higher. And then I still want to have that germ of an idea in there. So now I'm like doing two times as much work, it almost seems like to me.
Okay.
And so,
because my mind doesn't work with like puzzles in the way that they're kind of displayed in Locke. Like I'm more about the human puzzle, I guess, like mental, like not abstract thought, but like the way humans work and the way life as a philosophical theory works. But like, when I was playing Locke, I imagined you as like this Moriarty that's just sitting in the middle of the dreams universe with planets just rotating around you, and you're just sitting there with your library of puzzle books. Just
I mean, I do have like on my desk. I don't know if these will come through. I do have puzzle books on my desk.
See,
right? Like,
you nailed it.
Yeah,
you nailed it.
I do my research, if that's the question. Like in designing Locke, I watched, I do escape rooms. I watch a lot of YouTube videos about puzzle design. I buy all these books and try to do them myself. And I think in order to make anything good, you have to be at least immersed in the domain of what you're making. Otherwise, you're going to make all the same mistakes that every first time designer of that thing has made. You want to try to avoid those and build off what's come before. And so research is a huge part of that.
Okay. Well, I think that's splendid. That's definitely how it should be. But I guess that leads me into something I wasn't going to ask until much later. But what do you think is your biggest weakness in dreams? Like that you see plague others, and kind of going off of that last thought of, you got to be invested and do the research,
Well, I mean, I'm shit at sound. Like I can't do anything good with sound or music or anything like that. I'm not a particularly good sculptor or animator in dreams. I tend to like lean on other people for those type of things, and like the Dreamiverse like itself. Like I generally see myself as being pretty mediocre to terrible on everything, except for maybe the design part of it and the art direction part of it, like the being able to put everything together, and make sure everything fits. So kind of like a director sort of point of view. I feel like that's where my strong suit is, and that's kind of my strong suit career-wise as well. I'm better at leading teams and directing the project than I am at like doing the hands-on pieces, because there's much more vested people, and there are people who like in Dreams really want to make like the best desk ever, right? Like that's their thing, and like I'm gonna let them do that, and that's awesome that they want to do that, and then I'm just gonna use it afterwards, right? Like, so that's
that's the thing. Don't reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
See,
it's just
okay, Jamie. I don't want to hear that from you. I know how you work. You forget we work with you on something. So no, I agree with you, Pixel. That is absolutely true, and it leads me to a question that I wasn't satisfied with last time I asked it. But how do you feel about using things in the Dreamiverse?
I feel like that's the whole point.
See, I feel like it is, but I also have this innate thing in me where I'm just like, yeah, I look at it and I'm like, this person does this thing better, so I'll get this person to do it. But it's still getting them to do something that does not exist, or at least doesn't, like, it's not specifically tailored to your experience. And I feel like that's where me and my disconnect sometimes with the Dreamiverse, like where it comes from. Where it's, so it's, even though you're like, yeah, the Dreamiverse is there to, pick the things you want from them, there's still kind of like this thing where, but I need this thing for me. Like this specific thing.
I think that both things can be true, right? Like there's definitely situations where just pulling something, like if I need a chair, like I don't need my chair, I just need a chair to make the thing work. But in Lock, for instance, there are several elements that needed to be created specifically for that game. I couldn't go find them, and so I think a lot of it's about identifying what needs to be like that and what doesn't, and also how much time do you want to spend on making something, right? I have nothing against people who want to make everything themselves. It's personally, that's not a direction I would take, because it would have made Locke would have taken 6 years versus 2, so I don't really want to keep adding on to the scope by having some kind of need to make everything myself. I don't generally have that drive in me to have to have my fingers in all the elements, just generally speaking. And again, a lot of that comes from how I already work in my normal life and job. Like I'm used to having to work with other people who are really good at something, and so I've kind of just been trained out of thinking that I need to do everything myself. I guess I used to be like that a long time ago, but
So I guess per always, I'll go ahead and bring this back into the film, the film department for myself. As I'm going to start making this a common thing. I hope people don't mind, but I've always been a 50-50 Star Wars fan, and. And the reason I'm a 50-50 Star Wars fan is because, like, I kind of took issue with the fact that people were like, George Lucas is this revolutionary, like he's doing all this great stuff. I'm like, well, his art department is. I don't know about him, but I like in my later life, like even though I still have a 50-50 love-hate with Star Wars, like I did start to kind of mature into the idea that there is something to be said for the person who can lead that team. And so while I don't think he needed to have that cover for his book where he's on Tatooine staring off into the ether like some mythological god, there's still that thing to be said where it's like, don't look at all the things you can't do. Like if you can be the person that is the glue to put together this entire puzzle that is your team trying to do something great. That still is a commendable and wonderful thing, and just as specific a talent as being a person who sculpts or does music or anything. It's
Right.
it you know. So I think that was the thing that kind of led me away from my original thoughts on the process of like, but if I use this thing from the Dreamverse, did I really do it? Did I really create this?
Yeah. I think one way to look at it, and the way I look at it is, it's really hard to make a thing if you don't have a really strong bullseye at the end, right? Like you have to have a really good target or vision
Yeah.
for what the thing needs to be in order for it to actually be good, right? And so if you're working with a lot of people and everybody's doing their own thing, it's very easy for each person to really get zoned in on their piece of the element and then, you know, kind of like lose sight of the vision. So it's really helpful to have a person or a group of people, it doesn't have to be one person, that have ownership over the vision, over the target, and make sure that everything kind of stays on that path. So that way people can focus in on what they're good at, and then you can help steer them if it starts going off. And so if you're missing that component, if you're just have a team of 10 people all making their things, they could be all making like the best version of their thing possible, but when you put it all together it doesn't actually work, because nobody has that unified vision. Everybody has their own vision for what the thing needs to be, and so you really need that one clear kind of guiding principle, even if it's not coming from one person, right?
Yeah. See, this brings us back to a current conversation being had in the Dino project that we're working on, because I'm trash with audio. Like I can't do in dreams. I can't do anything with audio. I tried. My wife laughed at me, and I was like, "Well, there goes that dream." No, but
We'll start somewhere.
But I'm gonna see. I'm good with it. I'm good with it when they bring back the I can keep the mic on while I record things. Then I'll do it. Like then I'll be fine, because I could just be like, me and my guitar. Let's make it happen. But I can't do it the way I want currently. But it's all a learning process. But we're having this conversation currently in Dino because my taste is I love eclectic music. I like things to be of multiple genres woven together. And so I think of the same thing whenever I look at any music. Like I love that System of a Down did the Zelda song, and also did Shame from Wu-Tang. Like I love that they can switch up their styles. And it's like it all fits because it's System. But, that's way different from a BYOB or something like that. And so, we're having this conversation currently in Dino where me and Jamie are getting... Now I'm playing this up a little bit, but but no, we've reached this point where I was like, yo, for this scene right here, this is the sound I want. And he was like, no. And I was like,
I wasn't like, no.
And I was like, all right, so I'm gonna have a problem. No.
Well,
we have very different ideas on what we want the music to be, but I think we will get there. But
I think especially when it comes to music, I always say, like, when whoever's helping me with the music, I always tell them, no matter what I say or how confident I say it, do not trust that I know what I'm talking about when it comes to music. And so always fight me, no matter how it goes, because I'm probably wrong. So
I like that. You see, I do like that, though. I like that, to fight against it, because at the end of the day, it's a team effort as well. And what I believe the music for Dino should be might not necessarily be what it will end up being, because it all depends on how the cutscenes look, and the atmosphere in the particular section of the game might be wrong. So there's plenty of room for adjustment when it comes to music in games. But for me personally, I'm just so passionate about the soundtrack for Dino, because music's very important to me, and I just love making music, even though I'm terrible at it. But that's besides the point. And I just have this vision of what I can hear Dino sounding like. And what Will said was the complete opposite. And I was like, that goes against everything I've been envisioning for months. No.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, it's so I mean, but yeah, like you said, it's putting it all together, and
Yeah.
that, and sorry to talk about Dino while we're talking with you regarding Lot
Yeah.
It's
because
fine.
it's not in the same league currently, but it really did make me think because I think a topic I didn't expect to come out of this episode was the one we've created about dynamic and the goal and a team lead, and
Mhm.
that's been something that I've been extremely interested in because of how many times that's fallen apart. And
Yeah,
so, yeah.
it's tough too because like when you're talking about the dreams community, I feel like I could be completely off base about this, but to me, it feels like the majority of people in it don't do this stuff professionally. They're in it because Dreams is so democratized this creation process in such a way that it allows people who wanted to do it but never actually did it, right? And so we have a huge influx of people that are not as experienced with maybe either working with teams, working on making games, working on making animations, whatever. And so they're going to run into all these problems that every other person in the team has, dealt with either professionally or whatnot. And so I think there's a lot of that going on, and you have to give everybody time to kind of learn and grow in that atmosphere. And I think that's true about the games and dreams as well. Like you can look at the games and dreams and be like, oh, a lot of these feel amateurish or unfinished or half thought or not complete ideas or whatever. But that's because the person probably making it has probably never made a game before and had like this big of an idea when they started, and then they started and they're like, whoa, wait a minute, it's I can only make this big of an idea because they've never done it before. And so you got to give those people time to learn that and then grow and then make something new.
I am glad you went into that because I wanted to talk about Tiny Quest. And for those that haven't played it, you really should go on the Dreamiverse and play it ASAP. But I love the entire setup of this game.
So interesting.
And I can imagine for people like me, a project like that would be like super educational because it's that reoccurring thing that I always talk about where it's like it's a small, contained, but fleshed out idea made into a game. Whereas everything that I make is like, even if it starts out as this small production, it ends up being, the Iliad by the time I'm done. Like I just, I can't go small. Like it's such a problem
dreams
for me.
in general. Like,
yeah, I think that's
start with these small ideas and then it just like really grows into this massive project that's never going to get finished.
yeah. That's very easy to have. I mean, I do that. Like, I have all these little tiny ideas. I'm like, oh, this will be a perfect small game, and then I start working on it, and I'm like, boop, 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 boop. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger. Yep. That's typical. To talk about Tiny Quest, the where that started was when I was young, when I was like a kid, like 8 or 9 or whatever. I used to, my parents worked, and so I'd used to go to daycare and stuff like this, and not have a lot of free time, and be very bored. And so I'd make these. I'd get out a piece of paper and I would draw like a Mario level on one sheet of paper, right? Because I was big into video games, and I would try to fit the whole game right on this piece of paper because it's all I had, right? And then I would have like a little figure, or like I'd have like a stick, and I'd glue a figure to the stick, and then I'd move it. I'd pretend to play the game, and so I would do that a lot. And over the years, I've always thought, man, that was such a fun. I feel like that's not a very. I mean, my exact way of doing it is probably unique, but I feel like that's a thing that people have done before. It feels like a common enough. Like if you play video games as a kid, you want to start doing stuff like that. And so I thought it'd be a really fun idea to make a game, and this was before Dreams, a fun idea to make a game that was all in one screen, just like those things were. And then Tiny Worlds Jam came along in Dreams, and it just like brought that idea all the way back. And I messaged Joe Vork, like, because he is as much responsible for that game as I am. I messaged him like halfway through the jam. I think there was like 7 or 6 days left before the jam deadline. I was like, hey, I have this great idea. we should totally make this.
Let's not sleep for the next 7 days.
Basically, that's what happened.
Indeed.
Like he's on you know, on a basically flipped time zone than me. And so we pretty much did like a 24-hour, 6-day dev cycle where I would work, and then while I was asleep, he would pick up where I left off and do his part. And then we just kind of rotated for 6 days until we were finished. And then I kind of, I touched it up afterwards. Like the jam version is a little bit lesser than the final version, but
Yeah.
I think in general it only took us 6 days to make that thing. So
Wow. 6 days.
that's the power of dreams. Like if you have a good
Yeah.
idea and you actually have it planned out, like you can really make it happen quick.
Correction. That's the power of dreams if you have the time and the skill.
Well,
Because what you could make in 6 days compared to what I could make in 6 days is two completely different things.
to be fair, Yovork made all the logic and animation, so like I wouldn't have been able to do it on my own. So either.
Well, I am familiar with Jovork because, just been basically pop up a lot, had some conversations. So as I put in chat, if you missed it but are listening, good job and congrats to you as well. Because, I've really, really enjoyed it. And I hadn't played it until very recently. So good job to both of you on that. We had a question from Fluffy Panda in chat asking, did you die in the levels that you did on paper? Or did you always have your way through? Like, were you tricking yourself?
I mean, I don't remember specifically. I think it was like, even back then I was trying to be empathetic with like somebody playing it who didn't know. So I guess in a way I was tricking myself, but like pretending to, you think like, oh, I could put a thing here. Like, I don't know. I can't remember what I was thinking way back when. I just remember doing it.
I feel like I did it. I
We
feel
did-
like I did it before, but
I also did this thing where you'd get, I'm vaguely remembering this now. Like you draw the whole map out, and then if you wanted somebody else to do it, you get another like a piece of construction paper and poke a hole in it, and you'd be like, "That's where you are," and you'd cover it, and you'd have them like move it around so they couldn't see the whole map. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's super creative.
Yeah. So I would give that to my friend and be like, "I made a new level." So I've been making games since I was like 9.
Whoa.
Awesome. All right. Well, Jamie, I've kind of asked everything from here, so I'll take a step back, let you go in.
All right. I wanted to take it back to Locke, if that's okay, because that game is still making me scratch my head. I'm just terrible with puzzle games, but I appreciate the art form. How long did it take you to create Locke from start to finish?
It's roughly 2 years to
2
make
years.
it. Yeah.
Wow.
But I would say only a year of it was spent making it in Dreams. Like I spent a whole solid it might be longer if you count like how long it's been in my brain, because when I first heard about Dreams, I started thinking about what kind of game I want to make. Like what would be the game that I would really want to make. And so to kind of back up a little bit, there's this thing called, I don't know if you're familiar with like Puzzle Pint or the MIT Mystery Hunt.
MIT Mystery Hunt, yeah, I know that one. Yeah.
You familiar with that? Like it's basically like it's a puzzle hunt style game where all the puzzles are one word answers or phrase answers. Like you're always trying to find a phrase or a word at the end. And the puzzle pints like like MIT Mystery Hunt's like super hard, and you usually have to have teams of like, you have a team of like 10 people, and there's a bunch of teams and they're all trying to solve it, and it takes them like 3 days to get through everything. So it's like crazily hard, and like they make it hard because they don't tell you how to solve anything. There's no rules. There's just like you get the puzzle, and you're like 90% of the puzzle is just trying to have that moment where you figure out what you're supposed to do. Where
and
you
also it's MIT, so it has to be hard.
Yeah, it has to be somewhat inscrutable, right?
Yeah.
But Puzzle Pint's like it's a website, Puzzle Pint, and they put out one every month or so. But it's like an easier version of it. But even those are pretty hard, right? You still have to be kind of in on it, and you really want to kind of do them with more than one person, because they still have this issue of they don't tell you what to do. They just give you like a piece of paper that has like inscrutable text on it, and you're supposed to parse out the information, pull it apart, and put it back together in a new way. And then you're like, oh, I see what they're trying to get at, and you you put it together, and then you find the word, and then that's how you solve it. Everyone is unique and different, but so I've always enjoyed those. They're very, very challenging, but I always thought there was too big of a bar to entry. Like if I was to just if I was just pick one at random and show it to you guys, um, not only would I not be able to solve it probably, but like you'd be like, I don't even know what the hell I'm looking at.
Yeah.
And so like there's like an expectation that you know a lot of things before you start doing them. Like you have to have kind of like watched people solve them or get kind of the tricks of the trade, like, oh, I see they're anagramming things or stuff like this. And they don't tell you that, you just have to see that stuff. And so I thought it would be great if there was like a game that had that same sensibility, but was actually made for people who did not know anything, right? You
Yeah.
were able to get in on it at, like in a nice ramp sort of way, and actually like I don't have to have all this preconceived, all this pre knowledge. I don't have to don't have to know exactly what an anagram is before starting, or I don't have to know like semaphore, which is the flag code, before even beginning. Like there's no expectation that I know those things. And so I was like, I want to make a game that does that. I want to make a game that is a puzzle hunt, that is like MIT Mystery Hunt, but is for like everybody in such a
Yeah.
way. And I don't think I succeeded completely in making it for everybody. I still think it's
I'm still having trouble.
it definitely ended up on the hard side no matter what I tried.
Yeah.
Because that's just the nature of those puzzles. But that was my goal. That was what started it all. And so I started thinking about the types of puzzles I would want to do, and I did a lot of research. And then I spent basically a year filling up a couple notebooks with ideas and like figuring out the math of things, and like because you have to work a lot backwards with a lot of the puzzles, because you're like, okay, this thing is also going to be used for this thing, which is also going to be used for this thing. So I have to make sure it works. Like, and so like, I'd write down thousands of versions. Like I have basically 20 pages just for the math room, which is
Oh my
upstairs, because, and then that wasn't even enough. I had to go write a program to like brute force the math room in such a way that I could actually get a good puzzle, because of just the way the words work and making that actually work out with numbers. I just basically brute forced it into words, and then, which gave me like maybe 30 or 40 potential versions of that room. And then I solved them all by hand to see which one I thought was the most approachable. And so that's the one I used. But yeah, so I did a lot of that kind of work before I even touched Dreams. And then, so a year went by and I made Tiny Quest and some other thing. I made like Dream Ski and stuff like this just to learn Dreams. And then when I had a good handle on what I was going to actually make, that's when I started. And that took about a year to make that in Dreams. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, just the explanation broke me.
It's quite the commitment. I'm not gonna lie, but there's no other way to make that, the math puzzle in particular. You could try to make that by hand, but I'm not smart enough. I had to have a computer do it for me. So basically, that's designed via a computer and not via me. I just tested them.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, quite.
So, where are you going from here? Because like the creations that you've made in Dreams is so different from one another. Your style between different games like Tiny Quest is nothing like Lock, and Lock is nothing like Press X to Puzzle. They're all very different and have different styles. So do you have a specific style you want to move forward with in your next creations, or are you just going to keep moving to different styles in Dreams with different games?
There's a lot of styles that I would like to make games for. Like I see people making like twin stick shooters, and there's that new one. What's that called? It's like the vertical shooter where you're like the plane. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah.
Like I watched those games and I'm like, oh man, I want to make one of those. That looks so cool. But then whenever I sit down and start thinking about it, I'm like, there's no idea there. It's just like make that game. You know what I mean? For me, that's not enough. Like I could do it, but I wouldn't be happy with it, and I would never stick to it. You know what I mean? Because it's like I would end up making like one level and be like, "Yeah, there it is." It's like it'd be more like Dream Ski, where I was just making a thing. And so, for me, it's like I need to have like a good, like I said, I need to have like a kind of an idea or concept that drives me into making something, and then whatever that drives me into will be the style of game I make. Which it tends to lean towards puzzle games, because I think, like I said before, it's easier to solve problems in a puzzle game style format. Like I'm like, I can just make an easy puzzle game mechanics, and I can still communicate the idea via that without having to make
Mm.
like a platformer level or whatnot. But I have various side projects in the work, or projects and not side projects, but actual projects in the works right now, like a platformer with Yovork and Magma Monster, which is again is very hard to get off the ground because I don't know what to do with it specifically.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
and then I have an adventure game like a text adventure game I'm trying to make, which is basically all about. I don't know if you're familiar with the term ludonarrative dissidence. Are you familiar? That's like a move. That's a video game sort of thing. Have you heard that term?
I have not.
It's like
No.
it's everybody's familiar with it when I explain it because it's the concept that when you're playing, the actions of playing a game don't match up with the story of the game. Like, so take Uncharted as a good example. Like, you're Drake and or your whatever his name is, Nathan Drake, and you're treasure hunting and you're like this nice guy, but when you play the game you end up mass murdering like 300 people, like 400,
Okay.
500 people, right?
Yeah.
And so there's like this, you're really just this bad guy, like you're just this guy that's just shooting the shit out of everybody, right? And so like the story doesn't match up with what you're doing, like in
Yeah.
that sense. And so I wanted to make a game that actually like brings that to the forefront, like makes it very
Mm.
clear that that's what's happening, and then like constantly hit the player with it over and over again. And so I feel like a text adventure is a great format for that style of for that idea, right? So that's why that it's a text adventure style game. So
Interesting. Okay.
So it's like that cuts. So it's like, well, I don't know if you watch Demon Slayer.
no, I
But
don't.
no, okay, because they do this thing whenever whenever the main character's fighting a big bad, like you kind of see what made the bad guy, and it's never like this person was all bad and then they
Right.
became a demon. It's like this person had a huge history of tragedy that led them to this being this thing, and then you're killing them. But yeah, so I it's not the same now that I think about it, but I do get what you mean by it. Yeah.
Yeah. Not every game has this problem, but it is a common enough problem in more modern games, especially like the more like adventure style. Like if you look at any Tomb Raider game that's come out within the recent,
I
like
was just gonna say Tomb Raider
she
is
just
another
like,
great example of
especially
that.
the first one, because the story's like she's all like, "Oh no, I'm weak," and then you're just like, blah, 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 just killing everybody.
Just die.
Wow.
It's true though. Like, she gets a bow and arrow out and she's shooting people straight in the skull. Then she's sat there, ow, my arm. Ow.
Exactly.
Which, by the way, if you don't play Tomb Raider with just the bow, I think less of you. That's just
okay.
just the way I go. Something I've realized, and it's kind of off topic, but I want to know how you guys feel on it. Any game with a gun now kind of just completely turns me off. Like I don't know if it's me getting old or what, but like I immediately get like a level of like every time
I would say it's not the most exciting mechanic.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see where you're coming from with it because it's so overly used now. But I mean, I think there are some examples of great games that that use guns. I mean, just for instance, like Deathloop to me looks amazing. Like I'm not really into shooters much. I don't like shoot, move on, shoot, move on. But the concept of Deathloop looks really interesting and takes gun mechanics to a whole different level where it actually makes sense, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I made that really confusing.
I feel like guns are just like this loose facsimile for interaction that just has been shoved into games. It doesn't really it's not serving any purpose except for giving the player a way to proceed.
Exactly.
Like they're not using it in any sort of like interesting way. Like imagine a game where the whole game you had a knife, and at the very end of the game they gave you a gun. The gun would now mean something. Like you would be like, what is this? Like, what am I going to do with this?
Yeah.
It would completely change how you felt about the game, and about the gun and what you had before. Like nothing. I don't feel like games really want to do that sort of thing more often than not. Like they want to that's just the thing that gets you to the end of the game, basically.
It all comes down to playing it safe at the end of the day. That's what it is. Gun games are safe. Everybody likes them, and there isn't much creativity that's needed to make it work. That's the way I see gun games. Like,
yeah, see, I just like, it's kind of like the first person genre for me. Now, I'm not trying to make anybody feel off about anything they're working on or creating, or but it's kind of like my whole thing with like horror, where it's like the first person, like the first person perspective in gaming. I'm like, it's been used so much now, and it's, to me, like, it hasn't evolved. Like it hasn't evolved at all. And so it's like, I don't mind things being first person, but I'm also like, but when are you going to do that next thing? Like, when are you going to do that thing that makes me feel like, yo, this is the first time I've played an FPS, like a true FPS. And I just kind of get bored, like with the gun thing, where it's just like, you have a gun. I'm like, oh, pew pew. That's what I do now? Cool. Like, it's just immediately like a mechanic I throw out the door.
I will say that I have no desire to make a game like that. Like, it doesn't get me going in any sort of way. They're like, oh yeah, I can't wait to make a gun game. Like, I'm not like, it doesn't really get me from a designer brain thinking in any interesting way. I mean, like, that's not to say that there isn't interesting design that happens in those games, like making guns feel different and shoot different and function differently. Like, there's a lot of work that's put into that, and like making one of those is hard. It's just, it's more of like a analytical part. I don't know the right way to say it. Like, I'm not my designer brain doesn't want to solve those problems, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I just something it was a divergence. I felt like I could go on because because I use a profile there. Don't trash your game. Your game might be the one I've been waiting for. And in which case I'm gonna be like, yo, y'all need to play this new game. After all that shit I just talked, I played this game and this joint blew my mind. So, but
Afroman says you don't need a gun for a game, and my response to that is, what kind of game would you need to make the player feel like they needed a gun? Like, what does that have to look like? Like, how do you make it, like, if you're gonna actually solve this, if you're gonna actually address what you're talking about, like, is there a design that makes the gun the whole point? Like, and what does that look like? That would be an interesting game to make.
Yeah, that would be.
Well, MC Alchemist said, is Portal not a gun game? And you know what? It is.
It kind of is.
Very true. That is very, very true.
A game where you are the gun. Now that's
wow,
something I would love.
Here we go. See? This is
so now you're just Megatron? You're just Megatron? Is that?
Yeah. That would be awesome if you were just Megatron, like flipping into different people's hands to create the outcome. I'm telling see this is
that's a good game. That's a good game.
This is what I mean though. This is why I'm unimpressed with most of the things I see when it comes to that genre, because I'm like, look, it took us like 10 minutes to like get to a point where we had that, and it's like, so you guys are getting a lot of money. How come y'all ain't think of something like that?
Well, it's a lot
again because they're making a lot of money.
Gun is also a gun game.
There's there's something to be said about, like, you got to turn a profit and you got to make a game that a lot of people like. I feel like if you made like an experimental sort of gun game like I'm talking about, you'd probably get a lot less people wanting to play it, for one thing. You'd get people like us who are interested in this kind of thing to play it, but people are used to playing other gun games, right? Like, the game player base as a whole plays a ton of these games. Like, they're popular, and so like there's a huge impetus to make more of them, right? Because that's what people are playing. And so until that trend slides, there's no real reason to not make them other than creatively.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why I love that's why I love indie so much, and especially Dreams. Dreams is just like this indie cave of just pure creative juice. Like, you have actual indie studios that make great games, but they still follow a certain code of conduct when it comes to developing games that people are still going to want to play. Whereas with Dreams, you have that, but you also have all the weird wackiness that you would just never expect to see. And that's what I love about it so much. It's just a weird place full of everything.
Yeah, let me be clear. I don't mean like you can't make an experimental game because nobody's going to want to play it. I'm saying that you can't make it because nobody's going to like perceive that they want to play it. Like there's going to be like this inherent opposition to it. And like if they started playing it, they'd probably like it, and it could still be a great game. And like a lot of people might want to play it, but it's like it's hard to market. It's hard to market, hard to sell, hard to all these things. Right?
It's not COD. Is basically what you're saying.
Yeah,
so like, it's going to be a fractured market where it's like you're going to be left with such a small portion of the players that are just like, I could try this thing that's, you know, unproven, I guess, if you want to call it that. But I do want to play like COD. I know what I'm getting. I know I'll enjoy that thing. So it's like the demographic gets smaller for when you try to be creative. I just feel like, and maybe it's
you're always going to be compared to it as well. Like that's the other problem. And
maybe it's just because I'm a whiner or something, but like, I don't know. I feel like what makes Media Molecule so cool is that they seem to be that company that's like, we're going to do that. Like that thing that thing that everyone says isn't like a great business move. We're going to do that thing. And it's like, as far as Dreams being a game that makes games and also movies, but does animation and also audio, we're like, well, what do we market it as? And which we had that argument last week.
We have, yeah.
But yeah, it's like, I feel like there should be like a give back. And like, because I understand when people are like, that's not a smart business move if you want to do all this creative stuff.
It might not be.
And I'm like, it might not be. But if you make COD, and you make 500 billion or whatever the hell they bring in on that game per year because they release a new one every year, you're telling me you can't take like a good 200 million and just throw it off to the side and be like, hey, I heard you talking about this thing that you wanted to try to make. Let's see if we can make it. You can't afford that. You can't afford that.
I mean, they might not be able to afford it. Who knows? Like making game for big studios to make games costs a lot of money, no matter how small the game ends up being, right? Because the overhead is ridiculous.
But that's also because they're making big games. If you shrink the size of the game, you know what? This is going to turn into this other conversation. and because look, it's the same conversation as the $70 video game model.
Oh,
if we really want to get into this,
I think video games should cost more than $70.
I literally have it written down, which I just wrote down like 5 minutes ago. I was gonna ask you, what's your hottest take for Dreams? But now I want to change it to what's your hottest take for games, period? Because I think you just told us, and I want to.
I think people's expectations that like something like a video game should cost any amount of money is a mistake.
Okay, this is what I'm going to say as far as to kick this off. One of the main proponents of the $70 video game is a company like Ubisoft, who has stated that our production costs keep going up and, the prices would go up with it and blah, 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 blah. But they also made the declaration that they wouldn't make anything but big open world games like 8 years ago. And they switched their whole model over to it, which means their whole, they literally said, we're going to make it cost more, and then we're going to make you pay more, and then tell you it's because of what you want. And I feel like
that hasn't been working out for them very well, though.
No, it hasn't, because it's horseshit. Just like EA saying there's no way for like people don't want single player games. Like, yeah, somebody.
That's a different conversation to me, though. In my opinion,
no, but I mean, it's the same as in people are making statements that just blatantly aren't true. And unfortunately, they have a hand in what we get sold and what takes up the game market. So I believe that if people say they don't want to pay $70 for a game, well, then you give them $60 games. You don't say I'm
paying $70 regardless. So
obviously, we haven't gotten there yet.
When they say they don't want to pay it, then they have to also follow it up and not pay it, which I think tends to not happen.
I will agree, but that's not. But it's not commonplace yet. people can't even get the new systems. Like,
Right. We'll see. We'll see.
So we will see. But I see it as like that type of thing though, where it's like, you know, yes, we pay, we vote with our wallets, blah blah blah, all that stuff that people talk about. But also, I think ultimately, like if everything had gone right with Cyberpunk, just to, like if everything had gone right with Cyberpunk, and they were like, you know what, this game is $80, I'd be like, sure,
right. So,
but if you bring me Madden and you say, yo, this joint's $80, no. Because it's
I completely agree.
I don't feel like they should be
100%.
locked at any monetary like thing, but I also don't think that you could just allow them all to be at this set point.
well, I don't think games as a whole are going to be all at a set point. I think when they say we're going to release $70 games, they're talking about their first party titles, like the games that they have more control over, that they feel are, you know, they got a lot of marketing budget behind and stuff like this. Like if you look at Dreams should cost like $250. You know what I mean? Like it should not cost $40 or $10 as it did at one point.
Yeah.
Like that's insane. Like that's equally as insane. Like
Yeah. The problem with that is like with first party studios deciding to turn their games into $70 is completely understandable given, you know, let's just say Sony, for instance, they bring out absolute stellar titles and I will pay $70 for every game they bring out because I know I'm going to get $70 worth of an experience from it. But the problem with that is once the actual, you know, Sony and Xbox say, you know, right, all our games now are going to be $70, that sort of leads a way for all the other publishers to say, well, if they can charge 70, so can we.
yeah, but if the game's not, like, let's take Cyberpunk for instance, like if the game doesn't match up at the end of the day, like eventually people will stop buying it and then the refunds will happen and, you know, the price will have to drop, it'll go on sale, etc., 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 right? And so like I think you're going to see waves of people trying this, and if they can't get the quality of the thing they're making up, then that they will ultimately not succeed, right? So it's easy to look at things in an individual sliver of time and say like, oh, games are too expensive now or games are too cheap, but you have to look at it on like a larger scale. Like, is it a trend that actually holds? Is like if the games were like $100, let's say, is everybody happy with paying $100 for the experiences they're getting, or are they not? And then if they're not, I don't think that actually sustains itself. So.
Well, the thing is, you brought up Dreams, and so did Zadira in chat about it being released at $40, and you said it should be at least $200.
I said $250. I just threw that out.
$250. Yeah. Well, let's say I give that credence because I do. I honestly think it would be, but with the plans they have, especially the most recent article. What was that article that you sent me, Jamie? Who was that from?
PC Gamer.
Yeah, PC Gamer put out an article 4 days ago about Dreams, them interviewing Media Molecule regarding Dreams being on PC, being that we're in the midst of a lot of exclusives going to PC now, and the possibility of Dreams following suit. At the end of the day, because they have a 10-year plan for Sony, but in that article, Media Molecule, the representative for Media Molecule stated that their plan is more like 20. And that they do expect it to go to PC. And when it goes to PC, because like I said, I really do feel like we're all in the beta right now. Like the game may have released, but we're in early access. And by the time it's done, it might just cost $240 or $250. And if it did, I'd pay it.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at other creative suites or anything like how much you pay for Adobe, like how much you pay for Photoshop and Illustrator and all that, like it's well over $10, and it's way less sufficient than Dreams is. Right? Nobody's sitting here saying like, like that makes sense. So, and I want to address something Magma had said. He says he's glad it's cheap, and I also like that it's cheap. My point is that for what they are giving you, I would expect to pay a lot more than what I'm paying. Like I feel like I am duty bound to like give Media Molecule as much money as I possibly can because of how much value I've gotten out of it already. It's ridiculous.
Yes.
I agree with you, but I think it makes sense why it's so cheap right now.
Of course,
Because,
of course.
you know, they're trying to build their player base. Well, not player base. They're trying to build their creator base, should I say? You know, getting people on the platform, make it as cheap as possible, so that people get into it. They make a ton of games, and then once, you know, the popularity has risen, it will go back to its regular RRP, and it will sit there, and then people will buy it to play games as well as create. So I can see the, you know, the method for pretty much giving it away, but at this point they might as well just add it to PS Plus and call it a day.
Yeah, exactly. I think so too. I think making it cheap is the right move. That's not what I'm arguing for, you know, like I'm just saying like there's this huge, you can't ever look at price of a thing and the value of the thing. They almost always don't connect for me. Like, you know, I always feel like I'm paying too much for things that are shit and too little for things that are good. So it's like it's a really hard conversation to actually have a good answer for.
So let's say, because I'll go back because I kind of co-opted and answered my own question with yours. But what would you say is your hottest take for Dreams?
On Dreams?
Like, what's the thing that you think most people disagree with you on?
Oh, that we don't need updates.
I'm glad you said it, because if you were about to be like, oh, I don't know what that could be. Oh, I've indirectly brought you up before. But I wanted you to bring it up because I wanted to see what.
Let me defend myself before we go.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
I'm hyperbolizing a little bit. Like we always, of course, updates are always good, and like I would say need is not the right word either. I'd say updates are not holding anybody back. Like lack of updates. Like if they waited a whole year to update Dreams, you would still see like a ton of crazy shit come out in the next year, right? Like
Yeah,
it's not causing any kind of. There's no bottleneck with the updates, right? Like I want to see multiplayer. I want to see the new calculators. I want to see new gadgets. I want to see new logic stuff. You know, I want to see all that stuff. But I don't pay it any mind either. You know what I mean? Like it's not important to me. It seems like people seem to want to assign their failings to the limitations of the platform, which is not true in my opinion. Like if you're good at what you do, you work with inside the platform and you bend it to your will. There's no, like the 15-second is a good example, like the 15-second time limit. Does it suck on recording audio, right? Like everybody hates it. It's universally not like fun. It's universally bad for making stuff good, right? It makes everything a lot harder. But does that stop anybody from making good music or recording audio for games?
Yes.
Does it stop them? Is it actually preventing hold on. Is it actually preventing people from doing it, or are they just giving up because it's too hard?
I would say that's a tricky one as far as audio goes. Like you were kind of winning me over in your breakdown of like the prolonged thought process of how you're talking about it. Yeah, you can't assign your shortcomings. However, let's say you want a game that has operatic lyrics. I think that is a point where it's actually the shortcomings of the current hold on audio, because asking an operatic singer to basically work within that time restraint with, like, I say this and I bring this up specifically because my wife is an opera singer, and I told her about the time limit because I wanted to use her for an audio project that I failed at. And she and I told her about that, and she was like, I can't get it. That's not even like, I can't sing like that. That's not how opera works. Like breaking it into 15-second intervals, that literally destroys her ability to work within Dreams. So while I think you have a point on a lot of stuff, when it comes to audio specifically, I think that is something that just straight up needs to be changed. Because
I need to kind of couch what I mean though, because like when I'm talking about creations, like on an individual creation level, there's obviously limits that you can't break, right? Like I could invent a thing that I couldn't make in Dreams. Easy, no problem, right? On an individual level. But when I'm talking about like an experience or like a game, when I'm talking about Dreams, I'm mostly talking from the point of view of making a game. So let me preface that. Like,
Okay.
if you're just in it to make music, like if you're just in it to make opera music, you're fucked. But like, if you you know what I mean. But when I'm talking about games, like if you don't make a game because there's a 15-second limit on the audio, that's a you problem. Like that's not a Dreams problem.
The way I look at it with Dreams, and I may be an absolute hypocrite for saying this because I don't really create, I direct and make music, but if you're blaming the tools, then you're doing it wrong.
Yes.
Because, if you're saying that there's limits with Dreams, I also think you're doing it wrong. I personally think there is no limit to what you can create in Dreams. It's just a matter of the amount of time and resource and energy you want to put into that project to make it become a thing.
The comparison I use is if you look at Nintendo, like NES days, right? And look at how they had to make those games. Nobody's sitting there going like, Nintendo was a shit platform for making video games. You couldn't make anything. Like nobody says that. Right? There's obviously limits. There's obviously things they couldn't do. But how many great games, like it started the whole thing, you know what I mean? Or is part of starting the whole thing. Like the limits, there's always going to be limits, It is your job as a designer to work inside the limits, no matter what they are.
Well,
whether they're tool imposed or client imposed or creatively imposed, there's always going to be limits.
Well, let me ask this then, because I think one of the biggest things that makes how would you say? I think one of the things that makes Dreams not as widely acceptable as it could be, throwing away all the shortcomings as far as marketing, which we talked last week, is the fact that you're speaking purely from a gaming standpoint.
Yes.
Whereas I never got into Dreams for games.
Yes.
That was never my intention, and therefore. Like
that changed when we met, though.
Yeah, that changed because but
I think that's an important distinction to make because, like, I don't want to speak for those other people because that's not where I'm coming from. So if you're coming into Dreams because you want to make like 30-second, if you want to coming to Dreams because you want to make a 30-minute opera, like you're going to have struggles that maybe Dreams doesn't solve, and you are going to have grievances. I don't want to speak for any of that sort of thing. So yes, that is a very important distinction.
I don't have any grievances with Dreams, really. Like all the shortcomings I know are my own, and I've talked about them openly on this podcast
multiple times.
Yes, but the thing is that I kind of feel like it's. I'm trying to think of the best way to say this because, like you said, if your plan is to come in and make this thing like this opera or whatever, that's not what I was doing, by the way. But
it's a good example of something that would be possible.
Like you might run into some walls, but I think they're the same as the walls for creating a game. The only difference is that I don't think there are supposed to be limits in that way with Dreams. So for them to work on updating those things is merely just making it a more viable platform. So like I get and agree with and understand why they took away the uploading audio. I completely understand it. Also, Falkovich, don't start. You don't know how I sound.
I also agree with Falkovich. I want to see a Mighty Vicious opera.
You don't know how I really sound, bro. You don't know. Me and my wife will get on here and tear that joint up.
Sounds like a great idea.
Give me the audio update. And I'm gonna drop an album. That's it. Give me the update. I'll drop an album. But no, and that's kind of the thing. It's like I feel like there is that aspect where you're like, you have to work within constraints. Nothing's ever going to be fully perfect. Mm-hmm. But I also feel like there is this thing where it's like, but it still could be better in this, that it actually does say you can do. And so it's like, it's going to be different and hard to balance because, as soon as you fix one thing, then it's like, hey, we got these other things you could do. And that's why we're all patient enough to wait. And
I think they're actively looking to solve that problem some way.
Oh, yeah.
Like I don't think it's like a set in stone sort of thing.
No, but when you say no more updates, then I'm just hey.
I was giving you what you wanted. I was giving you what you wanted.
Hey. I don't want the
Okay,
faint sounds.
calm
I don't
down.
want the faint sounds of backpedaling coming across on this audio. No, I'm just playing. But I think you make good points, because the first time I heard you state this point, I was just like, I think this dude might be crazy. Like, I think this man might be on he might be on that stuff. But hearing you break it down into a full, like, into the full view, the full thought,
Yeah. There's more nuance.
Yeah, there's a lot more nuance to that. So I think
the issue I have with it, the reason I state it so succinctly like that, is because all I hear is people saying, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. Right. And just from where I come from, like, you never say shit like that. You know what I mean? You always figure out a way to do something meaningful, even if it means you have to change how you approach it. You know what I mean? Right. Like, you can't, like, people going on Twitter and complaining about something being missing or something not working, I feel like is just grandstanding and not actually doing anything. You know what I mean? Like, and the feedback, like, I never really get engaged in those too much, because, like, it's futile, because that's not why they're there to just bitch, I think. And then if you ever say anything to them, the common response is, well, aren't I allowed to critique? And my response to that is, yeah, there's a forum for that. If you actually want to fix something, if you actually want to suggest a change, if you actually want to improve Dreams, they have given you a method to do that in an efficient way. Twitter is not that method. Twitter is how you stand up and just say, I feel offended, or I feel grievanced against by this platform, and I don't care.
Yeah, you could just stop at I feel. That's it. Just I feel, guys. I feel.
Like, so I don't have any patience for that, to be honest.
I guess did you have any other hot takes, you or Jamie? Any hot takes?
Well, you know, this whole 20-minute segment about audio was completely void because Media Molecule are changing it so you can upload audio.
Oh yeah. See, like I said, it wasn't about whether or not they're gonna change that. It's that there are areas of improvement. Like, there are quality of life changes that can happen that will make the game better for it, and aren't just people, like, whining and complaining, even though 70% of the people are just whining and complaining.
I think, personally, in regards to the full creational tool set that there is, we don't need any updates for a while. We have everything we need to create anything we want. You know, there's not really anything that needs to be changed on that front. I think update-wise, the things that I would like to see is just improvements to Dream Surfing, like they have been doing since, you know, they've been, they got It's All-Star in there. You know, Dream Surfing has changed dramatically, you know, where you see all your following content and everything is positioned right so you can get to the stuff you want to see quicker. You know, that's what I want to see in updates, is just the Dream Surfing itself. Grow that, because, you know, the creators that actually create and don't complain, they're going to still create the games that they're going to create. They don't need anything from Media Molecule. I would rather Media Molecule focus on getting the whole play side of it set up, so that once all these masses of games come out, they are prepared for all the players that will be coming to the platform.
And I think that's what they're focusing on.
Yeah.
I think that, and that's why if you look at the last update, it was not, I don't think it was an update specifically targeted for creators. You know, it's like user experience updates, and people are like, oh, I wanted this and this and that. And I'm like, well, that's not really what they're focused on right now. I think the creators kind of have had their thing, and now that we need to focus on players. And I think a lot of times creators have a hard time looking at things from that angle. They look at, oh, this hurts me as a creator, but it actually is better for a player.
But it doesn't, though. I mean, what else do you?
It doesn't, but it feels like they don't. It's, if you can't look at it from the other angle, like, it kind of, you can kind of feel, you can kind of see that.
I see your point, but at the same time, I think, you know, people that think like that, you're just being selfish. You mean, you've got everything you need.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
You've got everything you need. Just start creating and let them prepare the player base, because ultimately, you know, if you make this game, you need an audience to give it to. So let them give you an audience.
Right. We need to make the experience for people who just want to play stuff like the best.
Yeah,
Like it should be like that should be the whole focus. Until people are like just jumping into Dreams and they're like, "Oh my God, I don't need to buy another game ever because this is all the games I need."
yeah,
Like that.
that's the win.
Yeah, that's what that should be the ever-present goal. And then giving us like, a tan calculator. I'll take it, but like I'm not gonna go go crazy for it. You know, you know what I mean?
I think I can't wait till the point where it actually comes to that, where people can literally just buy Dreams and have this everlasting list of games to play. And I mean, it's pretty strong right now, but just imagine what it's going to be like, 3 or 4 years from now. Like the top-notch quality games that we're going to have on the Dreamverse it's going to be absolutely insane.
Yeah, I'm always blown away. Like every time they do the new stream every week, I'm like, holy crap! There's
I know.
so many crazy things.
So many creations just coming out every week, and it's just so good. It's just so good to see it growing, and I think Media Molecule's plan has worked perfectly because we're seeing all these unique creations coming out every week, week after week after week on the stream, and they're showing the best of content that's come out that week. When you think about it, all of this stuff is coming out every 7 days, and and they're building on that and they're perfecting it and they're making the games bigger, and it's just insane to think that 2-3 years from now, what is the Dreamverse actually going to look like? There's going to be a lot less of these really small tiny demos and proof of concepts. That's all going to be washed way down the list, and at the top of Dreams you're going to have this just mega list of hundreds and hundreds of top quality games, and I think there's going to be nothing like it, and it's going to be unprecedented.
Well, I mean, it's just going to become a platform, right? It's just going to be like,
just
like itch.io, right? Like it's just going to be its own thing. And I feel like that's the thing we're working that we're up against the hardest is like players' expectations, right? Not the experience of when they get it and like being a creator and all this stuff, are like having enough tools and everything else. The biggest thing is when players hear about Dreams, they either don't understand it or they have the wrong expectations about what they're going to get. You know what I mean? And you gotta, that's the thing we really got to work on as a community, is to make sure that, we are better advertisers for Dreams than even is, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the thing we got to work on as a whole. And that's why the complaining also bothers the crap out of me. Because now you're just selling it in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I've said this from day one, people, as a player, not as a creator, but as someone who has seen Dreams as like, oh, okay, there's this game that has loads of games on it. That's pretty cool. As that person, they are going to be expecting a way different type of gaming experience than what Dreams is actually going to offer you. Because Dreams at the moment is still work in progress. Everything on Dreams is work in progress. And it's going to be for the next 2 or 3 years. We're not going to, or longer. We're not going to see this really polished list of perfectly created games for years. So when people come in that don't know what Dreams is and just expect this arcade of just hundreds of indie games and expecting, indie studio level quality of games, and they don't get it, they just piss off and don't come back. So I think it's very important that, we try and make people understand what Dreams is right now and what it's going to be, so that when people come in, they have the right expectations and also get excited for the future of what Media Molecule is trying to build with this platform.
Yeah, what RBD said, we need more Dream sellers. I think people are making Dream system sellers. I like the term Dream system also. I like when we refer to it as a platform, because it I think couches it in the right like context. You want people to look at it like they're getting an exclusive set of things that only belong in this one ecosystem, and it's not a game. Like if people see it as a game, I think the expectation gets broken. And I think if people see it as a system or as an ecosystem, like they are closer to the right way of thinking about it. From a player standpoint, obviously appealing to creators is a completely different animal. But yeah, when all those system sellers come out, they also need to be pushed as system sellers. That's the other part that's missing, right? Like, so okay, I'm gonna speak about Locke and other things that were in the Impies, right? Like all those games that were in the Impies, including Locke, like you could make a trailer using all those games, and then at the end of the trailer say only in Dreams, just like you say only in PlayStation, and like that's how that should be. That's how that should be pushed, because you want people to feel like they're missing out, and like the only way they can get it is to play Dreams, or is to get involved in the ecosystem that is Dreams.
You are so speaking my language. I've said this so many times on this show that Sony is literally sitting on an absolute gold mine of an opportunity.
Well, I think they're waiting for critical mass. I'm not counting them out that they're not going to do this. I feel like it's coming. I just feel like they're waiting on the most.
I'm hopeful that it's going to happen, but at the same time, Sony is absolutely awful at marketing anything.
This is true.
It's very difficult.
This is why I say
wishful thinking.
we as a community need to be better at this shit than they are. Even if they were really good at it, we still need to be better. We need to be the advocates, the product advocates, the ecosystem advocates. We need to make it sound like every time somebody hears us talk about it, like, I can't believe you haven't played X, Y, and Z. Like, that is like the best game to come out forever. How do I play it? Oh, you have to play it. It's in Dreams. Just go get Dreams. It's like $10 or free or whatever. We have to be able to go out there and say that as much as possible and get people excited about playing games only in the system.
I mean, they just have this whole thing where, and I hope that one day they're going to do it, but like, they could say, PlayStation is the only console experience where you have the ability to create film, to create games, and have them played on a full network of people that want to look at this stuff. And yet they're not doing it. It's just like, I hope that they're going to, and I can probably appreciate why they haven't done it yet, and they're holding off, to wait for all this stuff to come out on Dreams and things that they can justify it for. But again,
well, there's also like, we're looking at it like from the below up, right? They're looking at it from another angle, like everybody at Sony. You got to think about it too. Like, I don't know how much it was anticipated that it would be like this. It's very hard to look at Dreams before creators got a hold of it to see. I mean, you could look at Little Big Planet and see what people done there, but I would argue that it's not on the same, it's not the same thing. Like, everything you made in Little Big Planet sort of had that same vibe.
Yeah, all had that Little Big Planet look.
Yeah. Dreams has a whole different quality to it. That's more like like a production platform. But it's hard to look.
I buy it for people.
What?
We just need to buy it for people.
Yeah, I mean, I have to do that. If anybody doesn't have Dreams and wants it, just hit me up. I'll buy you a copy. I don't care.
No, like my friend woke up yesterday, and I've been telling, like, he's straight up Xbox head, like has been for the last 15 years, and I've been telling them about Dreams, and because we were roommates back in the day, I know that he liked to make music. And he's familiar with Fruity Loops and all that other stuff. And I was like, yo, Dreams can do that, right? And he was like, word? No, and because he had no idea what the hell Dreams was. And so I've been kind of amping him up the last couple of months. And he's like, well, I don't know. I still might go Xbox. Well, yesterday he woke up and there was actually a PlayStation 5 on a shelf at Target. And so, which is just a unicorn. It's a sign from God. And yeah, like, in my opinion, if you walk around the corner and you see a PS5 on a shelf somewhere, that's the closest thing to a miracle you're going to get these days. And so he, spent basically the last of his money currently to like get it. And I was like, just like, the Dark Knight, like, faith deserves to be rewarded. So when he got home and he was hooking everything up, he was like, yeah, he's like, at least I'll be able to, play Astros or whatever. And I was like, well, you'll be able to do more than that. And I was like, here's your year for PlayStation Network, and here's $150. Spend 20 of it on Dreams. You're welcome. And I just basically just spent $200 on him. It was just like, I invest this so that you give Dreams a chance and can make it happen. I think that's the best thing we can do for people, because all of this stuff that y'all have been saying, and by stuff I don't mean disrespectful, like all the stuff y'all are talking about, but no, all the things that y'all have been talking about, like, there's this one thing I just can't shake from it's actually from last week's podcast, and it was the idea that there's like this balance they need to hit between showing people what can be made or what can be played, but keep their understanding of it's still a lot of work to do this. Like, to get that across. That's like the hardest part to me. Because if you have all these people that come out and they see Locke or they see the Bad Robo or Martin and all this stuff, they're like, yeah, I want to create that. And then they get in and they run head first. That's the thing that makes
two separate audiences, in my opinion.
See, I don't think it is, because that creates the person who thinks that it's going to be easy for them to do something. And then they run in, they're like, wait, I can't do that. Wait, why doesn't it have that? And it creates that person, because it's like they don't know. I mean, if you speak to anyone with, a brain, it's like, of course it's hard to make a game. Like, of course it's hard work. Of course you need to work on learning some things. But a lot of people don't have that common line of thought that comes through, and they run into that brick wall of, well, I could make something like Bad Robo, but can I really? And so I think there's a balance of getting more players in, and also like setting up a realistic understanding that you have to work towards getting to that higher tier. Because, I mean, most of the people I see quit, or that you talk about grandstanding in Twitter,
these are the same people,
or on Reddit, or on, like, they all seem to have that same underlying thing where it's like, I got dreams, I'm ready to create. Holy crap. I did not think it was going to be this hard. And then the complaining starts. So it's like the same group to me. And one action, or the imbalance creates those people.
I think that is a fundamental issue that Dreams has, is that like you have to have some way to market to players who just want to play games. Like, that has to be a segment of your market, and then you have to have the other segment is creators, and you have to market to them specifically to avoid what you're talking about. But those are two very different people, and there's some overlap. I mean, there has to be, but I think the group we need from a marketing standpoint, that seems like a nightmare. Like, I do not understand how you solve that problem efficiently. Like, you can do like a lot of the suggestions in chat are good for targeting to players. Is like, maybe on the state of play, like Keld said this, maybe on the state of play, you just show Dreams games and you don't even say they're Dreams games. You just say the name of the game, and then you get people interested in that game. Right, and then they have to then they realize that it's on Dreams and on PlayStation, right? And that would be a lot easier too if Dreams was on PS Plus and like you didn't have to pay for it. It was kind of felt like it was wrapped into having a PlayStation. It wasn't actually a separate thing, right? That would help angle that a lot better. So if you could say like, show a little perspective for like a hot minute, like a good example of this is when Xbox did their indie thing. Right, a while back when they showed Cuphead, right? They just showed a bunch of indie games, and then like Cuphead was the one that everybody latched onto just because it was visual, right? You never know which one of it's going to be, but if you showed a bunch of those together and you just said that's on Xbox, that's all they did, and that made so many people excited, right? And so like I think you only have to do that much, and then it just has to be supported on the back end when people try to fulfill on that, right? They have to be able to get to that game easily. And that's a hard part with the fact that it's a separate game and it's inside the game. There's a lot of friction there that needs to be solved. And so I do agree that the creation, people underestimate, this is what I was saying before, people underestimate what it takes to make a thing, a game, music, animation, whatever. People always come in like with these like misformed ideas about what that means, until they've actually done it a couple times. And we're seeing a lot of that with Dreams, because that's just, it is so easy to jump into that you kind of get overly ambitious too quick. Right. And so I think that it does create those people, to your point.
I think another issue with it as well is, we're all talking about this from the perspective of people that know and love Dreams. So it's very difficult because we can appreciate and understand and can see the potential that Dreams has, And so we're sort of jumping the gun and like, oh, they should be doing this, they should be doing that. Why isn't all these people fascinated with dreams like we are? And I think Media Molecule knows that. They have goals and they have, ideas of how many people they want on the platform. And it just all takes time. And I think, that's what it ultimately comes down to. They know what they're doing. They will get there. It's just a matter of how they're going to get there. And we, as the people within the Dreamiverse, just need to be patient and realize that the players will come. They're going to do something to make it.
Yeah, I feel like they're going to. I mean, they got to make money too, which is the other issue of this that I don't even want to begin to solve. But like, I don't even want to. I would if I worked there and I saw that meeting come up on my calendar, I'd be like, decline. I don't want to be in that meeting. It seems like the hardest problem ever. So like.
I would disagree. I don't think it's hard at all. We've had this conversation far too many times on this podcast, though.
Yeah, we don't need to get into it. It's just my perspective on that. I think it is easy to look at it from only. I mean, it's easy to look at dreams from how we feel about it.
Exactly.
Like in what I was saying before, like Sony might have looked at dreams, and they might still be looking at dreams like it's a game. Like that's just a game. We just sell that game. That might be their whole concept of it, right? And they don't see it as like a platform. They don't see it as like a thing that people want to just play things on. They see it as just this like they don't see any difference between dreams and like, God of, maybe that's not a good comparison, but like any other game, right?
In which case we need to have a talk with them.
Yeah.
Well, they might never see it differently. They might never see it differently.
That's the thing.
Oh, if we have a talk with them, they will. If the unofficial ambassador comes, they'll see.
Yeah. They could just see it like that, though. It is possible that, they just see Media Molecule as these wacky people they throw money at to keep them happy and just bring in something different to their platform. Or they could see them as a revolutionary studio that's going to bring them thousands and thousands of indie developers directly to their first-party world for pretty much nothing. So it's really weird to see that it could go either way, because with Sony, you just don't know. You just don't with Sony.
It's a big corporation with lots of moving parts. It's hard to. It's set up in a way to make the wrong decision.
Yeah.
On a side note, has anybody seen what Kareem has been up to?
He's been quiet lately.
He's been very quiet for quite some time now. I've been wondering, because I'm not seeing him on anything. Like the Kareem streams were cool, back in the beginning, and it just seems like I haven't seen him or even like seen interview like that last big interview he did that circulated around Twitter. Like that was like the last time I think I've seen him mentioned outside of like us bringing him up. So he posted.
He was on the Impies thing, wasn't he? I thought he was on like the pre-show for the Impies.
Yeah, he was on the pre-show.
But what is he like? Do we know what he's doing? Because I personally think, and I think it was Alpha who brought it up in chat a while ago. I can't find the message now, but saying that they need to make a AAA game within Dreams, just something that they like. I mean, us too, of course. Like we can always strive for it, but they could also kind of, create that thing that's like, this is doable in Dreams, and make a purely like AAA experience, even if indie and like short. And, I think that being marketed and then use that to kick into the things that the community has created. Like, I think that would probably be the slickest way. But I used to always complain about Sony and their marketing and how the game's not being marketed and everything.
Marketing's hard,
but I also am trying to not really go at them for that very much right now, because I don't know how bad it is during the pandemic and this whole year and a half of stuff. Like I mean, they still get out what they get out, but I don't know if there's complications or if they had plans that got ruined.
I'm sure all those things are true.
Yeah. So it's just like I try to not go as hard as I would have have done earlier in the like first season of this show, because it's just I don't know how it affects them. Yeah, they got tons of money, but that doesn't make marketing any easier I would say for them, I guess. So
I just think Sony just needs a whole new marketing team. Basically, I just think they're not very good at marketing at all, unless it's like Spider-Man. They don't really have a budget for anything.
After I just said that, you're trying to spark me up. Just stop. I'm trying.
Oh, no,
I'm trying to be understanding.
Like, did you see the marketing campaign for Spider-Man PS4 though? It was insane. Like, literally insane how much money they invested in the marketing for that game. It was crazy how much they did. I mean, they put up Daily Bugle news, like, newspaper things in cities, and painted full trains, and God knows what else they did. They did a bunch of stuff for Spider-Man, and it's just like, well, can we just give Dreams a teeny bit of that budget? Just like, just 10% will be fine.
I will say Locke is on the demo, so you can play it for free.
Oh, cool! I did not know that.
Nice. So they're doing Media Molecule's trying to do. They're doing what they can. They're marketing, but I know it's like it's like moving a turning a battleship. Like, how do you do it efficiently?
I mean, for people that because I looked at, I don't know, I never paid attention to the splash screen that comes up when you like move the cursor to Dreams. Mm-hmm. But like, just seeing some of the creators that I've spoken with, seeing their creations on that splash screen, I'm like, how special that must feel. Like them, like when you go to that screen and you see like Bivson's green guy and Bo, and it's like he's still young, like really young compared to me, and it's just like, I can only imagine how awesome that must feel to like have that on like everyone who has a PlayStation and this game, when they see that splash screen, they see your art. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, to try to steer this in like a good direction, like I think without a doubt, like everybody who's invested in the Dreams community has easily got their money's worth from what's there, and like, I have no complaints. Obviously, I don't even feel like I have the right to complain about anything, but I really do think, even if like Dreams was to go away tomorrow, let's say, I feel like it's already been a success, right? From a creative standpoint, from an enjoyment standpoint, from a community standpoint, from just meeting new people, like all the things that we really want as people, all the things that we really care about. Like, it's nice if it was successful and we got huge, and like you could make something from it. All that's great, but like from a personal standpoint, being happy and being fulfilled, like for me, Dreams has delivered on that, like unquestionably, right? I've never been happier about something I've made, and I've never felt more fulfilled by making something than making something with Dreams. And I feel like that's a special experience that can never be taken away from me. So like I said, if Dreams was to go away tomorrow, like I would still feel very happy about the experience.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, it's just, honestly, it's just the best community I've ever been a part of in gaming. And
it's the only one I've ever been a part of, because none of it's ever seemed worth it.
Yeah. I mean, so far, I'm sure it's going to happen immediately when I say this, but nobody said anything about my mom. No one's taking guesses at the occupation of my father, or claim to be my father, or just all the things that you normally get from a lot of communities, like the dark sides of it. I haven't experienced here, and as always, I'm blown away. Like every interaction.
That's literally what makes Dreams what it is the community behind it. It just wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't be Dreams without how, the people that we have on this platform make it what it is.
I wouldn't try so hard. I know. No, like honestly, like I mean, I have the things, but it's the difference between where I started and where I am now as far as my personal journey through dreams. Whereas when I started it, I was like, I got to make this short film. I didn't look at people's names. I didn't look at other people's creations. I didn't see what anybody else was making or what games were on the market. I didn't look at anything. It was just zero in. Like, I need to do this. And now, like, it's completely different. Now it's something that I feel more, it's more inclusive than I was when I first came into it. And it's because I had shut down due to my history of gaming and what it's like to, you know, put yourself out there in other games that don't have as nice and as helpful of a community. I would say the close second, and it's like, well, I would say it's second. I don't know if it's as close, but it's better than, you know, like COD. It's like Monster Hunter World. It's a game I had never played. Like, I didn't play any of them except Monster Hunter World. And when I went in, people were just like, yeah, I'll go try to tackle that with you. Yeah, we'll do this. Oh, we're laughing. And, you know, it was just, everybody was helpful. And it was like one of the first times other than Journey where I felt that was the case. So I'm not trying to, you know, I'm going to stop sobbing on y'all or giving y'all my sob story or anything, but I'm just as always, I like to show that I appreciate all of you, even the people I disagree with, which not you, Pixel. I'm not talking about you. I'm just saying
you can disagree with me. That's fine.
Yeah. But I'm saying even people that I see out in the Dreamiverse that I might disagree with, I want to talk to them. Like, it's not like oh, I need to give him a piece of my mind or tell them why they're so wrong. It's like, I wonder why they think that way. Maybe I should think that way. And I'll just I seek out people, which is something I don't do in my normal life. As far away as I can stay from people, that's perfect. Like I said, the pandemic, the lockdown, it was just normal life for me. Like, nothing really changed. But yeah, so just my, I guess, semi-obligatory, like, love you all. Thanks for coming through.
I think it's interesting. It's interesting that I think the community is more positive or is a better community in general because it's not really made up of the same group of people that play games, right? Like, if you look at the community for Call of Duty, that's like, I mean, some of us are in that community, right? There's Dreams players in that community, but that community is largely made up of people that are video game players, and Dreams has a lot more creative people in it. And I think that's just, in my experience, been a more accepting group of people who create things, because in order to create, and be successful, you have to listen to other people. You have to be open-minded. Like, there's all these things that go along with being a good creative person that I think it like the fact that it's a creation tool facilitates a better community. I could be wrong about that, but that's just how I feel. Yeah.
No, that feels right. It's more of it's just a cooperative, not combatant, like, preset for the community. But that made me think of something. When we were talking about the gun games, like first-person shooters, I don't think we need to make that game we were talking about, where you're a gun that gets passed around. I think
I'm not gonna make that.
That'd be cool, though.
It would be cool, but I think that's a metaphor for what we're actually asking for being created already. We are the gun that's being passed around.
Oh wow, you're getting all philosophical.
Okay, now you lost me.
You're getting too philosophical now.
The player is the Megatron that's being passed around to different hands.
I just want a game where you're a Megatron. And you're like, you're running around and you turn into a gun, and then you just fall on the floor because there's nobody to hold you. And you're like, well, that was pointless. And then you turn back into a Megatron and you start running around again.
I think somebody will make that in Dreams.
So guys, we have Monk Vicious on the show to give us some physiological insights into the Dreams community.
Hey, don't get mad at the fact that I'm metaphysically wrinkle free, bro. So
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah. Hey! I'm just saying. I get there sometimes, but we did get. Or no, I'm gonna save it. You know what? I'm gonna save it. There's been an update on the Power Glove development.
Oh God!
But I used to own a Power Glove. I used to play games.
That's because you're a cool dude. That's
I'm a sucker for accessories. I don't know if that means I'm a cool dude.
I mean, it makes you cool in my book, especially. I mean, the Power Glove is so bad. No, I love it.
You had to put that thing on your TV, like the boxes with the pipes.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And like it would never be the right size for your TV ever. Like no matter what size your TV, it would never fucking fit. And so like you'd always have to tape it up there. And then you do all that work, you get it calibrated, and then you start playing and be like, this is shit. Like, why did I do that? It reminds me of PSVR a little bit.
I was just about to say it. That's I was
Okay.
literally just about to say that's what the tracking on the PSVR is like.
Okay,
It's like, why did I bother?
I'm glad you brought up the PSVR because I'm gonna tell you, I was a little. The only reason I pay attention to PSVR is because of Dreams. And I've been waiting for the new one because I'm like, there's no point in spending the money on the old one now because the new one's going to be out. Why did Sony put out that announcement
Of an announcement.
the announcement of an announcement for PSVR 2? Like, this is the thing that makes me side with Jammy in the idea that they might not know what they're doing. I would not have been pumped had they not told me to be pumped. They're like, hey, here's something you can get pumped about, but we have no details for you to actually get pumped about it.
I'd say it worked.
Did it? Because now I'm like hating it.
But like 5 months ago, they said, "Oh, we have no plans for VR. Like, we're not thinking about VR anytime soon. It's not something that we're looking into anymore at the time." And then all of a sudden, they bring out, "Hey, we're just announcing that PSVR 2 is a thing, but we're not going to announce anything yet."
No, they did worse. And Wargarble, I'm not saying that it's going to be bad. I can't wait for it. I've been waiting for it. I can't wait for it. They have my money.
At the way they've done it.
But they literally were like, "Hey, you want to get pumped about something? Let me tell you something. We got this thing coming out, all right? You're going to be so pumped. It's PSVR 2 word. It's going to be state of the art, next level, next gen. Okay, cool. You got me. I'm good. But what's it going to be like? What's the new technology you're implementing? What are some of the specs that you might think you're trying to reach? Oh, we don't have those yet. But you know what? Stay pumped, bruh. I'm out.
You know what?
And it's like you came in and you were like, "I'm here to pleasure you," and then I was like, "Word," and you were like, "But not today." And I'm like, "What?" Like, you just got me hyped. You just got me hyped for no friggin' reason. I was sitting there and I was enjoying your show, and then all of a sudden, I went and the next episode was the tuning exam, and I was like, "Why? Why am I having to sit here for 300 more of these to get what I need and I want in my soul? I want to inject PSVR 2 into my bloodstream."
I know. It's like what Nintendo Direct did. You know, everybody was expecting Breath of the Wild 2 announcements, you know, a new teaser or something. And then he came on and he's like, "So, you all came here for Breath of the Wild 2 news, right? Not happening today. Thank you." I was like, I have sat here for 45 minutes, watched absolute rubbish. Nothing worth looking at. Mario Golf, not interested. Splatoon 3, not interested. Where is Breath of the Wild?
Well,
sorry, not coming today.
You're not interested in those, but
I have another hot take.
Yes.
Oh, come on. Everybody was waiting for Breath of the Wild news.
I think the Breath of the Wild game is a terrible game.
What?
I think it's horse shit and trash.
Oh, I love it. No, I think it's the best Zelda game they've ever made.
I love you.
I'm so glad that they did what they did because it pissed so many people off.
I'm on with this. If you need backup on this one, I'm coming in. But
I'm not going to defend it. I'm just going to let it sit. I'm just let it hang there.
You're just gonna let it fester. Be like, you want to know what Pixel said on that podcast?
I don't really have a good defense. I just don't think it's good.
No, I've said something similar on here before because I think that Nintendo gets away with a lot of stuff. And because their player base is just like so indentured to them, that they just like they act like the things they do are groundbreaking. And I'm like, but other games have done it. It's just the first time you got to press jump for Link. Like it's the first time you got a jump button for Link. It's not really like I personally don't think the game is bad. It's just not groundbreaking. It's not groundbreaking to me. And but hey, don't you come in here with that, because people respond to Breath of the Wild like people have actually started like saying Breath of the Wild in comparison to other games. Like if a game is like hard, it's Souls like. Well, now the games that do things that were created or were done way before Breath of the Wild still are being compared to Breath of the Wild as if they created a wall climb mechanic. Like it's ridiculous. Even like all the big gaming analysts are doing it just like Souls like. And it's like, no. Link was not the first person to be able to climb a wall. Nor is he the one with a upward traversal, like, or a glide mechanic or anything. People act like everything Nintendo does is people act like everything Nintendo does is this groundbreaking thing. And I'm sorry, but Dreams is better. So, booyah.
No, for me, it's just the best Zelda game that they've ever made.
It really makes you feel like a Zelda.
It's just the best Zelda game I think they've ever made. Yeah, it has voice acting in it. It has a big open world. I just really like it. I just think it's the best Zelda game, and I can't wait for Breath of the Wild 2. And they really, really upset people when they did that on the Nintendo Direct. It was just
that was really baffling.
It would have been better to just not say anything at all than to do that. To be like, oh, Breath of the Wild 2? Yeah, not today.
It's like if they just came out with his middle fingers up, like.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
I'm looking at this comment from Talc, and this is what I'm talking about. Talc, I love you. Before we get started, I love you. Okay, you're here all the time, and most of this is in jest, but I do feel this way when he says Breath of the Wild is the first truly open world game, in my opinion. I feel like that has to be a troll, like because I feel like you're trying to get. I feel like you're trying to get my eyes bigger. And I just
like smell my eyes.
Yeah.
I mean, I've played every Zelda game before that and enjoyed most of them. And I played that one for like 2 hours, and I said, "This game sucks," and then stopped playing.
Oh wow! Okay.
So, the appeal of that, it's like a fan. Like, I don't know. I just. Again, I think it's because I don't like open world games in general. I don't think the design is a good design, but I also think Zelda games have gotten off where they used to be. They're not. It's not the same game anymore, and so that's probably why I don't like it. If you want a good analysis, go look up Jonathan Blow plays Zelda Breath of the Wild, and basically how he feels about it is similar to how I feel about it.
Oh, I'm sure that divisive, dude. I'm sure the comment section on that is a delight.
Oh man, it's pretty good.
Yeah. So, I think we've kind of reached the end, even though we seem to have sparked something in chat regarding going after Zelda, which I like it. I like that energy. But I'll check one last time. Do we have any more hot takes?
I'm sure there's some in there, but
because I know I'm still.
I don't know what you want from me.
I'm still being made fun of in chat like every episode because of my Art's Dream thoughts. But
yeah, I saw Falco. He wanted me to give my opinion on Art's Dream. I think Art's Dream is hindered by the fact that they wanted to demo what you could do in Dreams to being a good experience. That's how I feel about it.
That is the best way that someone has. You know what? That's how. Just imagine what he said as my thoughts exactly. That's what I mean. That exactly. Thank you.
Like they were trying to make a thing. They made the thing they were trying to make. So like you can't say it's bad. Yeah. But like I feel like if you're cognizant of that, like it starts to fall apart as like a fun experience for me. Like I'm just seeing the wheels turning, you know what I mean? And I'm like, I feel like I'm just turning the wheels. I'm not really having an experience anymore. So like, I don't know how else to say. I don't want to say it's bad. I just didn't enjoy it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to convey to people, because people went in on me. people were not happy with me.
They tried to bury Will.
Yeah, but that's exactly what I was trying to say.
Like
it's like, I'm not gonna call it bad. It's just what you said. I'll just leave it at that. What you said.
Like it's the perfect thing for if you're just getting Dreams to play something and see what you can do. Like to your point before, like you need to have that in Dreams so people understand the possibility space. And as like a mechanism to show that possibility space, it's probably like the most fun that could be. Like it's probably like the best version of that, or one of the best versions of that, because it has like music, it has cutscenes, animation, has different gameplay elements, has puzzles elements, it has all these different things that needs to be. But I think because of all that, like it doesn't gel in like a meaningful way. But the meaning was not to do that. The meaning was to show show the possibility space. So like it's hard to really even talk about it like as a game or as like a thing. It is what the thing it needed to be.
Well, it's not a game really. It's an intro to Dreams, isn't it? It's like
that's a better.
That's it. It's an introduction. This is what we've made to show you what you can make, and that's.
And like I said, it's probably like the best example that they could have done.
Yeah.
Like it is super polished. Definitely. It has all the, like I said, it has all the pieces nicely isolated to show you, right? Like, you know, there's the song and cutscene at the end. There's all the, you know, everything is very well planned and obviously there for a reason, right? And so
I don't think it's the last thing we're going to see from them, though. I think now that they've done that and they've got through the whole "this is what Dreams can do" thing, I reckon we will see some more game-focused games from them on.
Yeah, I would like to see them make a game that was like had it being like about a game or about an idea first, and see what that looks like. Yeah.
Have that much involvement, that much time, and that much investment, but purely for a game and nothing more.
Yeah, not have this weird requirement hanging over it the whole time.
That would be nice to see.
Yeah.
Well, and with that, ladies and gentlemen, we will end off the episode for this week. Pixel, thank you for joining us. I truly enjoyed having you and speaking with you and hearing your hot takes.
It was fun. I'm sure I'll get shit for it later.
Good. And we'll be there. We'll be there to defend you. But we are planning on setting up another roundtable here soon.
Yes.
And I wanted to start doing this thing at the end of episodes where if you want to be on an episode, because people were asking last episode, like, how do you become a guest? You don't have to be some super creator in Dreams. You don't have to be an Impy winner. You just have to reach out to us. That's it. Or if we don't have anyone reach out to us, we'll reach out to somebody and be like, hey, you in? So if any of you want to be on the show or you're interested in being kept in the books for the roundtable or the second roundtable, anything like that?
I'll put a pin on the roundtable one if that's all right.
All right. Yeah. That works. And but yeah, if you want to be on, if you want to follow up Pixel, hit us up.
I'm going to post our Made in Dreams Discord podcast into the chat. So if you guys want to join the Discord, just go into the general, just say, I'd like to be on the show, or, either at Lucid Nebula on Twitter or at Mighty Vicious on Twitter, just saying, I'd love to be on the show. We'll DM you, just reach out to us and would love to have you on. Anybody, as long as it's Dreams related, we're interested.
Yeah. I want RBD to be on the round table too.
Yeah, and I would say, sounds like a plan. It's been
a while since that'll be fun.
It's been a while since we've talked.
Definitely.
So
that's been a while.
But thank you everybody for coming through. Is there any final word you want to give to the people, to all your followers, to all the people who hang from your Impy? Is there any?
What?
Yeah. any of the people that are just like it could have been. I'm just joking.
Maybe next year, y'all.
I'm just dang.
Oh,
Better luck next time, scrubs. Hey, I'm one of them. So the point is, as always, we're just joking because, like I said,
totally joking.
just totally joking. The whole Dreams community is beautiful. So, we will see you guys next week, same time, and remember, click that Discord link if you want to come on the show, and we'll set up something. Catch y'all later.
see you later.
Peace.